poison pill this and make it difficult for you to match. You don't have a long-term extension. So what is Chingy/Smallsy asking here?
Yeah, people don't know that Holiday Inn actually written about the Colts quarterback situation.
Yeah, so go ahead. Can you please present questions about the Colts quarterback situation as one of your favorite St. Louis rappers, Chingy,
who I'm hoping will play a party for me one day.
Okay, go ahead.
Reach out, Chingy. Okay, so question number one. Who you with?
So Kevin and I will answer Smalls' Colts quarterback questions as Chingy.
I'm not going to do them in a Holiday Inn order because I think
do it however you'd like to do it.
We're going to remix it here.
Okay.
So who you with?
Kevin, it seems like they're with Daniel Jones, but they haven't worked out a long-term extension, and someone else could swoop in and try to get him. No?
Daniel Jones and his ability to get money is one of the best traits that anybody's had in the NFL in the past decade. We saw this with the Giants, where everyone was laughing at the fact that he was demanding $40 million a year, and then he got kind of the market rate deal for Daniel Jones, and now he's negotiating again, even though he has more money than a lot of quarterbacks that are better than him. He's doing it again. So, this is not – I think the Colts are playing this as well as they could. I think Daniel Jones just wants a lot of money, and it's really hard to give it to him coming off an Achilles and the fibula. He was really injury prone. And by the way, let's say he's fully healthy, he's still Daniel Jones. There's no guarantee that he's even a franchise quarterback. You have a small sample size there in Indy, so it's very complicated. I actually think slow playing this is the way to go, Ev.
Chingy?
Next question. What are you going to do? What you doing?
I think they're trying to work out a long-term extension around that number in that 35 to 40 range, and they're probably going to try to do it with a little bit extra time here before anyone else tries to swoop in and get him. Kevin, could Pittsburgh swoop in? Let's leave salary cap space aside, because my assumption is if you feel like you can get a quarterback, you find a way to get a quarterback. And if you feel like Daniel Jones is your guy, if you're another team, you restructure everyone you could restructure to get him. I understand that sounds wild because I'm using the name Daniel Jones, which is the practical name here, but look at it as quarterback we want, right? Is there another team that you think could swoop in and make him an offer that the Colts would have to say, I'm sorry, we can't match that? We're going to listen to Kevin Clark and telling us that Kyler Murray is pretty damn good. Is there another team for him?
I don't think so, and here's why. Achilles returns have not been kind to quarterbacks. We saw this with Kirk Cousins, who was a little older than Daniel Jones is now, but he couldn't plant his feet and throw the ball for over a year after he came back for Atlanta. And so if you're going to sign Daniel Jones, you're in it for the long haul. And I think that the only team that's looking at this long-term with Daniel Jones right now is the Indianapolis Colts, because they had proof of concept. The Steelers, who are trying to win now, that's why you hire Mike McCarthy, are not going to take the chance of punting on an entire season. But Miami is not going to take the chance of punting on an entire season. So, and by the way, Miami's in a long-term build where they'd want to eventually get a quarterback in the draft, and you don't want to sign, 3 or 4 year type deal with Daniel Jones with real money. You're not going to be able to get away with an unguaranteed third year with a guy like Daniel Jones. So, no, I think the only team looking at it long-term would be Indy.
Here's Chingy with more.
Last question, and this is not in the chorus, but it is in the song. What's the holdup?
Good question, Chingy. So, Kevin, mid-season, the Indianapolis Colts, pre-Daniel Jones injury, let's just discuss what they had. They had not one, but 2 MVP candidates with Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor on Wisconsin. They had a Coach of the Year candidate in Shane Steichen, a guy that I thought could have been the first coach fired this year in the NFL. Remember, they were one of those press release teams after last season, not the season we just had, the season before, the 24-25 season, where they had to announce the people that are employed are still employed.
So his play saved jobs.
His what?
His play saved jobs.
Yes, his play saved jobs. And so now, what's the holdup, as Chingy is asking? I'm confused, because in my mind, Kevin, the moment they traded for Sauce Gardner and they gave up 2 first-round picks to the Jets to get him, that's the moment they decided this is our guy, not just now, not just for now, but in essence forever, football terms, forever, so 3 to 5 years. And they've had a lot of time to work this thing out, and they haven't really worked this thing out yet.
First of all, I believe Jonathan Taylor is going to be the last ever good player from Wisconsin. So
what kind of that is?
Wow, let's expand on that.
That is a nasty, gross thing to say.
No, you guys have pivoted towards lawsuits against Miami. It's fine. That's your thing now.
We're there.
That's your thing
I
now.
see. You know what's funny? You know what's funny?
Litigious.
Let's go behind the scenes. Okay. How do you butter up Kevin Clark? you just praised the University of Miami.
Or the Orlando Magic.
Well, there's not a lot to say there these days, but yes.
Jamal Mosley, I thought was a good coach. He may be on the hot seat after the season.
He's not a good coach.
Okay, anyway. Side note. So in the break, again, behind the scenes, I said to Kevin, I would love that Carson Beck got booed at the combine because if I'm a Miami fan, because it feels like the U, like that, when the U think the U is back, embrace the hate is so much like
100%.
Booed everywhere you go, the bad guys everywhere. So I thought I was buttering him up, and then he says that Jonathan Taylor's the last ever good player from Wisconsin. We've had good players since then.
Who?
The guys that are good.
Who?
Anyway, Kevin, go
Some
ahead.
names, please.
Jake Ferguson, Leo Chanel is a free agent.
Yeah.
Maybe Leo Chanel hooks on with a place and becomes
You should really like Jake Ferguson. Actually,
what are we doing here?
there's a lot of Miami ties.
Not anymore. Well, I mean, there's a Carson Beck tie. There's a Carson Beck tie, but let's not get into it.
He's the not anymore.
So, all right. The Colts thing, you mentioned it, but like once you trade for Sauce Gardner, you're all in on your core. You don't trade for someone like any of these mega trades are for non-quarterbacks, going back to Khalil Mack, going back to Jalen Ramsey, going back to any of these where you start talking about first-round picks for a player straight up. Those types of trades only happen when the team is comfortable with quarterback, and they start blowing up or they start becoming non-factors if they were wrong on the quarterback. Again, that's what happened with Khalil Mack in Chicago. It's the reason they didn't win playoff games. The reason they didn't compete for a Super Bowl was because they were wrong on Mitch Trubisky. But you don't do that unless you're 100% confident with Daniel Jones. And by the way, Daniel Jones knows that, and that's why I think this negotiation is dragging on so much, is that he knows the Colts have no other options, and they've got a roster they think can win now and save Chris Ballard's job and save Shane Steichen's job.
Anything else, Shingy?
That's it.
Okay. Coming up, the worst contract management ever, maybe. But first, last summer, I invited Kevin Clark to my house. He said no. That hurt.
ITV.
That hurt, right? But when he does second, but I do want to read you a tweet that I think is pretty dead on from Ben Solak, our teammate, ESPN NFL analyst, who tweeted this. Truly one of the worst managed contract situations in our living memory. And I think he's right. I mean, if you think about what Trey Hendrickson was, he was a great player for them. He wanted a contract extension. They wouldn't give it to him. He holds out, right? They give him a bump in pay for 1 year. Then he basically doesn't play because of injury last year. They don't trade him at any point, obviously. And now you get to this point where it's just like, all right, you can go. I mean,
And we'll get nothing for you.
And we'll get nothing for you. Kevin Clark, you have a podcast. This is football. Omaha Productions, available on the ESPN app and wherever podcasts are found. This is not football. This is not what football teams
It's
do.
Bengals football.
This is awful. Is Solak right? One of the worst managed contract situations in our living memory.
He's half right because there's other examples, and most of them are with the Bengals. Jesse Bates is a good example. The safety who's now in Atlanta. There was no expectation they were ever going to sign him. And that's part of why I was surprised that T. Higgins ended up signing. And T. Higgins, by the way, could have been on this list as well had he not taken what amounts to a very team-friendly deal last year to stay with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who they actually did prioritize keeping, both of those guys. But the Bengals just don't care about spending a lot of money outside of that. They just really don't. And the Jesse Bates thing, they basically convinced him to come back for one more year and not hold out and just say, hey, you can go to free agency next year. It's a little baseball-y in a league where you're supposed to retain your free agents, sign them as soon as they show any signs of life, frankly. Obviously, the Eagles do it best, but everybody else does it except maybe the Cowboys. But even the Cowboys tend to get their guys under contract, albeit at a higher price tag, closer to when they reach free agency. The Bengals, with the exception of Burrow and Chase, they operate like the Tampa Bay Rays, and it's incredibly frustrating if you're a Bengals fan. I've always said, like, geography is destiny for quarterbacks, and Joe Burrow is going to have to deal with this his entire career. The Brown family is not changing. Bengals front office is not changing. They do the things the way they want to do it, and that's going to put Joe Burrow at a competitive disadvantage for his entire career.
And that is where we go, right? We just because what is this going to do for Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals that he gets the 2 wide receivers he wants there? They're there. They're amazing. Chase and Higgins. Nobody's doubting how great they are, but that's a lot of money in one position, 2 guys. Now your best defensive player is gone. And Joe Burrow has had all these kind of weird statements of is he retiring? Is he asking out? What is he doing? Adam Schefter, senior NFL insider, was on with us yesterday here on Unsportsmanlike. You can go back on the podcast and listen after 7:30 a.m. Eastern when he joined us. And he talked about the idea of what happens to Burrow if they miss the playoffs again this upcoming season.
I expect Joe Burrow to be in Cincinnati, and then I think this year becomes a referendum on what he wants to do after this year. I think it's a year by year. I think if he's happy in Cincinnati, all is good. I think if there's another rocky year and there's more losing, I think all options are on the table.
And they should be. Mm-hmm. I've said this on this show before. I'll say it again. There's nothing worse in life than wasted potential. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to see Joe Burrow waste his potential because he is great. He's not just good, he is great. What did the Bengals pay him, $275 million? It's not enough because think about the way we talk about the Bengals and the way we should talk about the Bengals. They bungled this Trey Hendrickson situation so badly. It's bad. You get nothing for him when you could have gotten a lot of value from a great player, and you didn't do it. And now he walks away with nothing. Joe Burrow, yes, has sustained a lot of injuries, and that has contributed to the fact that the Bengals have missed the playoffs 3 seasons in a row. However, the organization around him has been dysfunctional. They've made bad decisions. I understand why they give him the power that they give him, because when we talk about the Bengals, we talk about their potential to compete for championships because of him, because of Joe Burrow. We talk about if he's healthy, they're going to be in a different position. So he is the big deodorant for them. He covers up a lot of stuff, and he changes the way that we talk about this franchise. And I hope that if they miss the playoffs again, that he finds a way to Shawshank himself out of there. Because I know he gets paid handsomely to do what he does. I know that they have given him his 2 weapons, but I do not want to see Joe Burrow play for a franchise where he really has no chance to win.
But, Kevin, he made his bed here. He made his bed, right? He signed the extension, which of course he did. And he also made sure that they signed 2 guys at high numbers who are awesome. Let's not get that twisted. But value-wise, in terms of building championship teams, you don't start outside in on offense.
Yeah, the Eagles paid Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Things seem fine there. They won the Super Bowl. So, like, I don't think that those 3 guys are the issue. The issue is
they signed them earlier, though.
Yes. That's what the Bengals should do. I think that there's a couple things about it. Number one, what's frustrating about the Bengals, it's not just that you bungle this with Trey Hendrickson and let him walk. It's that you haven't been drafting in a way that lets you do it. I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays analogy falls flat because the Rays always have another guy coming up behind the guy they let walk. That's the issue with the Bengals. Is that Shamar Stewart, the first-round pick last year, didn't show very much. Miles Murphy, their first-round pick a couple years ago, hasn't really popped. The pass rush just isn't going to be there. And I think that when Hendrickson was healthy last year before the most recent one, he was the highest percentage of sacks of anybody in the league for his team. So what that means is, like, basically he was the pass rush in Cincinnati, and now that's gone. And Joe Burrow needs a defense that's going to at least be average to put him in games so he can try to make the playoffs. He's not going to get that. And I